Hello, welcome to another video. And I'm going to talk about an exercise called the prone jackknife with the Swissball. Often it's known as an abdominal exercise, or pretty much what it's mainly most people are using it for. I actually tend to like it more for what it does for the hip. Definitely the abdominal part's important, but this is a great exercise for the person with hip problems, groin, hip problems, low back problems, but the hip part is really great here, even the quads for people with weakness in the core, in their with knee problem. But in this hip flexion part, I'm going to sort of break down why I like it about the hip so much. In this hip flexion, so hip flexion is when the hip is moved into this position. So if I was standing up, it'd be almost like I'm squatting right now. What we will often see with a person who has a lot of hip dysfunction, where there's a lot of stiffness, where the femur, which is your thigh bone, isn't sitting right in the middle of the socket there, so it should be sitting like that, all right? Often what we'll see, and this will happen a lot on the squat, is the bone will sort of move forward, and this is where it hits the top here, and you get all this sort of groin and terrible hip problems, and then you'll also see as a result of that the back rounding out. So then that also leads to back problems, especially disc issues. All right, so this exercise is a great correction for it, because that person, and when we see on the extension part, so that person, when they usually get to here, is where you'll see them sag. All right, so they'll sort of be like that. All right, and they're basically, their glutes have sort of gone into gripping, but there's a huge weakness at the hip here. They're actually very weak through the area where they're getting pinched. This is where people think they need to stretch the area, because it feels like it's like a sharp stabbing pain right in that groin region, when actually it's actually weakness. And that's what I was saying, you might even feel that there's a weakness through the quad. They might even feel issues at the knees here. But the best part of this is, like, obviously the core is being engaged, so they keep this natural lumbar curve. So you should be able to stay fairly straight. I've lost my head position here a bit, but basically, when my hip comes in very slowly, I'm just going to place even slower than normal. When that hip rolls in, what we don't want to see is this little curve lost. So you're trying to learn how to keep this anterior tilt of the pelvis, so where it's tilting forward to maintain that curve. And you doing this, actually building strength into the quads, where normally we're using the correction to do this is the deadlift. All right, so we're sort of driving the femur back into there because the glutes are pulling it. In this case, we're actually really putting it in the point where it could actually lose it, and you're having to sort of drive this through the hip flexors to try and get it, not through the glutes. All right, so quite a very unique exercise for this reason. And definitely the abdomen, even the shoulders are an issue in this exercise at times, where we might see weakness and winging of the scapula, where you will see sort of I can't really see it from this angle, but you'll see a big divot here, and that's where you're sort of building the serratus anterior in this exercise, which you'd need in a push-up. So a lot of great things happening in this exercise, but it's a fantastic one for the person with those hip problems for the reasons we just discussed. So I would definitely be using it in your training program. Don't go to the point of too much fatigue, because you'll just learn how to do poor ones. So really make sure that you keep really good form throughout, and you'll get the most out of the exercise. All right, so I hope you enjoy that, and we'll see you on our next one.